Finally, a race like this, like just this, what you're seeing, this, like a race like this. First race of the week, starting off in P9 with a 121 flat, which is actually pretty slow for us. We should be able to move forward from here. Getting a decent enough launch, avoiding anybody really going around our outside there. We do have number 17 who's looking for a move, but we have the inside for this first corner, and we are able to hold that. Just about going side by side with the car who started ahead of us, that purple car, number 16. Going to settle behind him before we enter into the S's. Have to back up quite a lot. We actually almost got rear-ended there, and the car behind us had to back up as well. Coming through the S's, single file, great place to be to start a race. We get a ton of speed compared to car number 16 ahead as we exit the S's. Going to have to slow down a lot there, and once again, that's going to back up the cars behind and actually put them at a bit of a battle. So the orange and blue cars behind now fighting as we try and make a little bit of a sprint away from them. Hopefully we can break slipstream and clear them. Chances of doing that on the first lap are pretty slim, but we do have a really good connection to the car ahead at the moment, going down that entire straight about 3/10, 4/10 behind him, which is a really good place to be. Strong slipstream. Stay single file all the way through the chicane. You can see the gap behind did open up a little bit as this action went down. Number 9 sending it from way back, really getting the car stopped just about perfectly and making a beautiful move all of the way up the inside. So he takes that position. Back into our cars, we start lap number 2, completely missing the apex on the first turn, so we have to tuck back to the side. You can see we get disconnected from the car ahead by a good amount there. The cars behind, we had a good gap starting the lap, but they are going to slowly start pulling closer as we miss another apex. Just not driving our best race, keeping our speed high, but still not taking as small of a distance as we could. You know, we could minimize our distance by hitting these apexes. Into the chicane at the end of lap 2, barely get it stopped. We go a little bit quick on entry there, which is going to cost us slightly on exit. The car ahead doesn't really get that great of a run either. You can see the gap between himself and the car ahead of him opening up quite a bit. Going to do our best to stay connected with him, and as this lap progresses, we keep about the exact same distance. Coming up to the straight, getting freaking blinded by the sun as we do it. Last corner onto the straight. We're in a good spot, still within slipstream of him, and we do have a decent gap to the cars behind. You can see them fighting once again right now. Orange car now going up the inside of the blue car, who seems to have gotten a really poor run onto the straight. He's able to actually move back in front of him before they get to the chicane. Small lock up. They go side by side momentarily, but that's going to be a pretty clean and safe move for car number 8, although that is going to open up the gap once again between ourselves and them, so kind of relieve that pressure. Next lap coming through the chicane, and we get a really good run here, maintaining our speed, just about getting it off track there, using the entirety of that entry curb and putting 2 of our tires in the dirt. Coming through the S's, we really want to get our tires over that curb so it kind of hooks onto the inside of that curb, send it over the dirt and then over the grass as well. None of that is an off track, and we get it executed pretty nicely on this lap. Back onto the fateful straight, which seems to determine a lot of Road Atlanta. It's really about connecting, staying connected to the car ahead so that you can maintain slipstream through that straight. And the car ahead massively overslowing coming into the chicane at the end of that lap, which is going to put us right on his tail. We're going to soak up that slipstream all of the way down the front straight now, coming on to across the line to start lap number 6. We are hoping to fight this guy for P8 at some point. I believe we have better pace, and the gap ahead of him is really opening up. If we want to stay connected to these guys, we have to get around him. He sends it very deep into turn 1, cuts across very heavily, ends up sending it narrow into this corner right here, and then wide all of the way around this little hooked up section. Into the S's, I back off a little bit, hoping that he'll overslow on exit and we can maintain a higher minimum speed and kind of slingshot past him. He does very well to compensate for all of those like kind of sketchy lines he took, and manages to get a pretty safe exit that is not going to allow us to put a move on him here. But we are closer than we have ever been coming onto the straight, so I know that with the slipstream, we are probably going to have an opportunity by the end of the straight, if not before then. And as we chase him down, we are going to be soaking that up all of the way. You can see there's no slipstream ahead of him, so we have a massive speed difference. Coming into the big braking zone, we move to the inside, brake about as late as we dare, going down to second to try and help us maintain a outside line at a lower speed, giving him space all of the way through that corner. And you'll notice he's no longer behind us. So as we reverse, you'll see that he drives directly off the track, completely misses the corner. And fortunately for me, the car behind didn't take advantage of the fact that I didn't even use the whole track. He does the exact same thing as me. He could have cut for the apex as you would typically take that line and gained a lot of time to me, but I think he just target fixated on my car. At this point, I'm swerving a little bit. I'm being chased down by the orange and the blue car. So orange and blue car, and then also the blue car, both of them trying to break that slipstream as much as I can into the braking zone. You have to be safe here. Messing this up will destroy your race, but I still want to carry as much speed as I can through there. End up setting some decent laps, and we begin to kind of catch these guys up ahead as they start to form a little bit of a group here. A lot of fighting going on. Their car up ahead is going to slide out completely, and we will pick up that position for free. So that puts us up into P7 now. We target fixate, go wide. Car number 8 manages to take advantage of this moment as he takes the racing line through there and has a significant speed difference as we come onto the straight, going side by side. And by the time we reach the braking zone, he will be slightly ahead of us. We definitely could have fought this harder, but I end up just kind of giving this position up. Probably shouldn't have done that. I definitely could have fought that and perhaps kept that position. Definitely a missed opportunity on my end right there. Starting off the next lap, he goes a bit wide, or a bit, bit wide on exit, bit fast through the corner, and same thing as the guy earlier, very narrow into this corner. That's going to allow us to catch up all of the way through this kind of little left-hander as we enter into the S's. And coming through the S's, we're going to be right on his tail. He's making a few mistakes. He's not really using all of the curb. Does manage to take a slightly better line on exit there than me, so that is going to push him far enough ahead to keep himself safe. Coming to the straight on this lap, and I'd say the gap is about 0.4 seconds. He did get a slightly better run onto the straight, so that's going to keep him just about safe on this occasion. We're actually going to brake early here. Don't want to put him under pressure. Don't want him to defend and slow both of us down. So want to give him the confidence to take the racing line there and follow it as well. We follow him around for a few laps, and then as we make our way to the fateful straight, tire in the dirt on the left side as we're braking, we're going to get a little bit of oversteer. We manage to correct the car but lose a huge amount of time to him. Car number 9 taking a very clean line, following me through. That's going to give him the advantage. I stay in the middle of the track to force him to choose left or right. He picks right, which is going to put him very wide, and I have a decent amount of space here. I notice pretty quickly he's going very fast into the chicane, and I'm going to slide underneath him as he sends himself deep on exit, make a small amount of contact, but neither of us affected all that much by it. Looking ahead, and the gap has opened up a bit as we did do that small amount of fighting at the end of the straight. I believe I got a little bit antsy here to catch up and wanted to put in some really strong laps, as I knew I had the pace to go a lot faster than I was doing. I think that thought kind of sent me a bit too hard into that corner, trying to give the car more than it could handle in terms of speed and steering at the same time, sliding off and losing a lot of positions, falling all of the way down to P14, crossing the line here. So huge error from myself, and of course there's a pretty big train right behind me, so I had to wait for everybody to pass. And at this point, my race has turned into more of just trying to claim as many positions back as I possibly can and minimize the damage. Going too wide up ahead and actually end up switching positions, that black car and the black and white car ahead. The black car had been falling down slowly through the order, and he must have had some sort of damage. He drives into the pit lane here, so we pick up P13 for free. And we really just need to put in some consistent laps, let them continue to fight. Or even if they're not fighting, I felt that I had better pace when I was running consistently. I just could not afford to make any mistakes right now as we were running out of time. Only, I think at this point, there's about 3 laps left, and I'm still not as close to these guys as I really need to be. Not going to be getting any slipstream on this straight in this situation, but coming through the chicane, we do make the most of it here for ourselves. And we have 2 laps left after crossing the line right here, so this is the penultimate lap we are on currently, and the goal of this lap is just to stay attached by the end of the straight. If I could do that, I believed in the fact that I could probably get a move done on this purple car at some point throughout the last lap, probably at the end of the straight. But in order to do that, I would have to be attached on the straight and stay with this group. I managed to get a very, very good run onto the straight right here, and that is going to put us with about a half a second gap. For those of you who don't know, the slipstream in these cars on this sim kind of maxes out at around 1 second. So anywhere within a second, and you're going to have less air resistance, which will let you accelerate faster. Starting the final lap here, we have an opportunity. We can do this. We just have to drive clean and drive fast. I believe he takes a poor line through there. I don't think you need to cut that much out to the right to enter onto that corner. We do get a bit of oversteer, so we know we have to full send it through the S's, taking the curb on the right, all of the curb on the left, hooking our tire onto the inside of the curb on the right, and we end up missing that final curb, which is fine. It's not the fastest, but it's okay. Not sure what happened to that guy on the left, but that will put us into P12. So this has now turned into the fight for P11, and sometimes seeing that, gaining a position, or just seeing somebody else fail, strangely enough, kind of gives me motivation, and it feels like it gives me just a boost of locked in juice. I don't know, like I feel more locked in. Coming on to the end of the straight, we have a huge run on this guy. We're still pretty far back. We're going to tuck to the inside at the last second, brake as late as we possibly can, and it might have been too late. We do not lock our tires, come as close as I have ever come to locking our tires without locking our tires there. Broke just about later than I think I ever have on that corner without locking up, and still actually coming through there very cleanly. So there's the view from the car we passed right there. He actually ended up backing up as soon as he realized that we were going to get that one, and we were going to come across the line there for a P11, making that move work for us on the final lap. Had we driven a little bit safer earlier, we probably could have ended up in perhaps a top 5 position, but we did do our best to come back from our mistake. Here are the results for all of those result fiends out there. We ended up gaining 0.05 safety rating and 2 I rating, so we kind of just stayed where we were for this one. Hopping straight into the next race, starting in P3 with a 120.344. That is significantly slower than the top 2, pretty close to the guy behind. So I know that the guy behind, we have a chance of a good race with him. That is car number 2 right there, who started in P4, immediately pulling ahead of us and sending it up the inside of the guy who started in P2. We end up going side by side with P5, or the guy who started in P5, currently P5 as well, but he backs out, so we are able to take the racing line into the S's and all of the way around them. Really focusing on trying to stay attached to these guys at the front, which means keeping my tires from overheating. Once you start to overheat them, your lap times are going to fall down, and it's kind of like they will exponentially get hotter because you will continue to slide on them, causing them to get hotter and hotter. Coming up to the straight for the first time in this race, really essential that we stay attached to these guys ahead, otherwise they will be gone with the lap times that they're able to put in. And I'd say we make it with about 0.9 or maybe slightly over a second ahead of us, so it looks like we may have just lost the slipstream to them. They start to pull away, but they end up going side by side into the final corner, or at least looking for a move. Car number 3 is there into the chicane, and that's going to pull both of them back, as it probably gets in the silver car's head as well. So puts them back to a place where we potentially could be soaking up a small amount of slipstream. They pull away once again over the course of the next lap, and then fight side by side into the next corner. Car number 3 successfully getting that move done. P2, a slight oversteer on exit as he has to adjust his line to let car number 3 through, and we are now attacking him. As we come onto the main straight, he's going to pull over to the side to take a defensive line before I can get over there, so he successfully holds me off there. I brake early, hoping that he's going to send himself deep from that inside line, but he does very well to get the car back to the right side, although I may say too far to the right, but then again, he is potentially a faster driver than me, so I don't really have any room to be speaking here, as he immediately gains ground on us coming through the S's, probably just holding that throttle down while I am lifting for rotation. Probably something that I can do better moving forward, something to focus on. And as the laps went on, the gap grew between myself and the cars ahead. Fortunately, there was a decent enough gap behind to where it wasn't as if I was being put under pressure. The only pressure was really just on myself to get my pace up and get these lap times down. Coming through the chicane about halfway through the race, major slide as we oversteer. Coming out of the chicane, we gather it up and manage to climb back onto the track before the group of 3 behind us catches us. So that's P5, 6, and 7. And I'm sure everybody wants this P4 here. P5 looking for something. I take a slightly defensive line into that first corner just on the off chance he decides to dive it. This is about 4 laps later, and we're pretty much absolutely dusting this guy and the car behind him. I'm not sure what happened to P7. He's no longer there, but we felt pretty safe and confident to finish this race out with no further mistakes. This was, apart from the slide, the fastest race I had driven yet on Road Atlanta, so I definitely began to settle in at this point and feel the confidence building within myself to drive a clean race at pace on this track. So there's the gap as we come around the final time crossing the line, and that will be a P4 for us. Unfortunate, I don't think we really had the pace to keep up with the top 3, but I mean, there were some small mistakes and errors that I could clean up that could have just given me a faster race overall. Gaining 0.6 safety rating, which is a shit ton in case you don't know, and 70 I rating there. Really happy with this result. This last race was a fucking classic. 120.8 for qualifying, really not that great of qualifying for myself. I should be in the mid 120s to low for qualifying. Managed to just about hold these 2 guys off behind me who get way better launches than me. My grandpa launch is kind of holding up everybody here at the back. Yellow undercuts me here to get on my outside as we enter into, or it turns into the inside as we enter into the S's. I'm allowing him space, probably more than I should have. Slow down a bit here. There's 2 cars off on the side, so that'll put us up into P13, and you'll notice we're still giving space to the yellow car who's by our side. Somebody's completely cut the track ahead of us. Yellow car gets a really good run out, and he's going to claim that position. Here's an outside perspective of just, I mean, this was some really clean racing from everybody, honestly. The group is all moving together and moving just about at pace. We do have the yellow car on our outside as we come down this very small straight, and we're not going to give this position up so easily. End up sitting it 3 wide. He kind of nudges us to the side. Somebody goes flying off in the background. Definitely wasn't his fault. He had some contact from his right side, really didn't have anywhere to go. Very unfortunate for us as we end up losing not 1, not 2, but 3 positions, getting a bit of oversteer, putting our tire in the dirt as we accelerate, and Hugo Boss is going to go in front of us, following him through on the straight now. So we're back to P15, I believe, at the end of this lap. Gains 2, lost 2, and then looking for a move up the inside. He brakes a lot harder than I expected him to. Somebody's rejoining the track from a oversteer or some type of strange moment that's happened. Here's an outside perspective of car number 13 and myself sending it side by side. That guy rejoins the track in front of us. Somebody gets spun behind us, and we're going to be kind of going 2 by 2 here as we enter onto lap number 2. So this is all within the first lap. Very exciting first lap, and we settle behind Hugo Boss. There's just not much point going side by side down here, especially if I'm on the outside. I've got not the greatest chance of gaining that position. He begins to pull away from us. We don't have the best line through there, but the fact that everybody is so backed up, nobody's really pulling away from anybody, are they? Hugo Boss taking a defensive line as we come up to the cambered right-hander, and we're going to end up spinning him off here. This is something I see a lot. I'm not proud of it, but I don't have to go all the way wide there. When I moved, I was just moving to take a wider line, and then he continues to drive into my side, believing that I go all the way to the outside. But you have to look in your mirrors for that. I was still there, and I don't believe that is on me. Car number, what is this? Car number 15 kind of sends it up in front of car number 9. It causes this huge slowdown. This group forms, and we're going 2 by 2 by 2, so we've got 3 rows of each 2 wide. I'm trying to hold this number 11 to a tight line, but he does not want to be there, so we make a little bit of contact, still trying to hold these guys to a tight line just to mess them up. And I don't know, that wasn't me that caused that. I don't believe that was me. Car number 11 looking to move to the inside and then taking a braking line that's headed towards the outside where he has 2 cars. It's going to end in mayhem. Both of them go flying off. We stay on track safely somehow and end up tucking behind 21. Soaking up that slipstream for just a second, and then we're going to use that to launch ourselves ahead on the inside of the, the front straight, braking as late as we can into turn 1, and we're going to get that position through. Car number 8 then dives up the inside of 21, murders him, and then gets head-butted into oblivion right there. His car didn't actually seem to take that much damage. Somehow, we escaped through all of that. We basically moved through that entire group, excluding that yellow car ahead, who kind of caused I mean, he didn't really cause it, but it was an incident, of course. It wasn't on purpose, but he was kind of the catalyst in that all of those events taking place. He doesn't get the best run as we enter into the S's, and the gap is going to continue to close. Not really at a place at the moment to look for a move on him, potentially on the straight, which we come around to just a couple of corners later. By the end of the straight, we are gaining a lot of speed, but he kind of runs us a little bit narrow there. He does very well to defend that, honestly. I could have been a bit more offensive on entry, but I was looking for that undercut on the way out. Don't manage to get it, so I tuck back behind him. This Martini car all the while is catching up to us as we begin fighting with car number 15, who takes a defensive line, realizes we're not going defensive, pulls back to the outside, and we stay there following him through at the first turn. And as we head up the hill, soon to come down into the S's, my main goal is just to stay as close as possible and look for an easy move at the end of the straight. It is the biggest braking zone on the track, so that will make it the best opportunity for overtakes. He misses the first apex coming through the S's, also doesn't get as wide of an entry to the exit of the S's as he possibly could have, which is going to give us a way better run. He moved to the outside at first, and then he tried to cut back once he realized we were staying there, but he did allow us space, to be fair to him. We take it, slight bit of oversteer, but nothing that we can't handle. And once again, slight oversteer. Our tires are definitely feeling it at this point. Here's an outside perspective. He was very respectful, did allow us space. We managed not to run into him, which is always a plus. And then as we came onto the straight, car number 19 is going to absolutely just fucking run into this dude, send him wide, and ultimately end up causing him to lose 2 positions, one to the Martini and one to that blue and yellow car. A few laps later, that is the gap to the car ahead, so I think we're riding currently in P8, and that's P9 as we enter onto the final lap, and the gap has actually closed significantly over the last, say, 5 laps. So we're finally running at pace, and this is the car ahead. I want to say he's being pretty conservative. He's not running anything all of the way wide. Meanwhile, we are taking as much as every curb as we possibly can, launching it over the sand and over the dirt. However, that's not going to matter because we are having to defend against this fucking Knight Rider behind us with no front bumper, which sometimes can actually accelerate your lap times or decrease your lap times, believe it or not. It allows you to brake a lot later sometimes. And depending on the damage he has, he perhaps has a higher top speed, but less aero. I believe that's the situation that's happening here. He moves to the outside extremely early and just continues to pull on us, absolutely flying down the straight, basically clearing us before we even get to the braking zone. I tried to fight this a little bit, quickly realized it's not going to happen, and settled behind him. Just a couple of turns from the end of the race, losing a position really sucks. Perhaps getting it back here, but he takes a very nice defensive line around that final or penultimate corner, and then we slide out across the finish line as we push the car just a lot harder than it really needed to be pushed here. No reason for us to do this. We weren't getting that position, but we still crossed the line sideways, which was pretty fucking cool. It's not going to help us at all. It'll actually hurt us, at least our safety rating, which is tanking. 0.19 safety rating we lost. We gained 49 I rating. And but what's more important is we had some amazing racing that race. That race was the most fun I'd had racing in a long time.